6. Nine. Good morning and welcome to the World Open Billiards. We're watching a match between David Collins of Victoria and Adwin Tay, who is officially from Malaysia, but it's Malaysia via Burwood in Sydney. My name is Peter Tankard and I'll be commentating this match. David is, of course, a legend of the sport, multiple times Victorian champion, 3 times Australian champion, and one of 2 men who have won the Australian Billiards and the Australian Snooker titles in the same year. He would start as quite a warm favourite over Adwin. But Adwin's developing, improving constantly. He's under coaching from 19 times world champion Mike Russell, and he won't be daunted by this task at all. These are, of course, the early rounds of the World Open, which is an event in its own right, but it's considered to be a warm-up event to the main event, which is the World Championships, which starts on Tuesday and finishes on Saturday. Adwin has lovely pace control and has made a bit of an art form of playing the long losers. Both of them moving the balls around quite a bit at the moment until they can get them under close control. Looks like a cannon off the cushion here. Yellow cushion red. Notoriously difficult to commentate billiards because there are so many different ways to score. And the way each player sees the shot will be somewhat different. Of course, I'm just making excuses if I call it wrongly. The cushions are sliding quite a bit. There's a new cloth on the cushions. There's a Strawn Superfine on the bed of the table, which is a new cloth, somewhere between a Strawn's 10 and a 6811, which is in most clubs. But they've used 6811 on the cushions, and the cushions are sliding and probably will continue to slide for most of the tournament. So if you see players missing shots on the wide side, it's because they expect that the bounce will be a bit squarer than it's turning out to be. So cannon, red to yellow, push the red towards the pocket. missed all 3 chances there. David Collins quickly out of the chair. I expect David to be more at home on these slick new cloths. Tables in Victoria are recovered far more often than in New South Wales, where Adwin's from. So Adwin may struggle a little bit with the pace, the throw and the slide. But he has been down here for 2 days already practicing. And he's a very hard worker. David's brought the red high and above the opponent's white ball so that he can herd the red over the pocket and the white ball towards the billiard spot. 16. Red's got away from him a bit there. Got the white in the right place, but the red's escaped his control. Finest of cannons there. You might see in the background that there's grandstand seating set up here. All of those seats are sold for the final of the World Championships, but we're still 6 days away from that. In these early rounds, it's still possible for people to walk in. This is a ticketed event, but there are still tickets available in these early rounds. Look of concern on Adwin's face there, having missed that one. This is a wide in off here, very missable. Well done, Adwin. Unfortunately, he's lost the yellow into baulk, so he'll now have to figure out. It's not badly placed though for an in-off, so if he can get a red pot and get over onto the left-hand side of the table as we're looking at it, he should be able to recover that. He'll take a couple of just preliminary shots to do that, try and bring the red back towards, past between the centre spot and the D. Little light on, but he can now bring it around to a side pocket. So he's trying to bring this red around to the right middle pocket, trying to go in off into the right hand corner and bring the red around off 2 or 3 cushions. No, missed them both. Left an easy starter for David. Looks like there's one annoying moth flying around there. And we can tell that because of Dan Lynch's high definition cameras here for Cue Ball TV. Dan actually has 4 cameras set up for this event. Has he lost that one, or is it perfect? It's perfect. David smiles at himself, having got the red into perfect shape. He then missed the easy recovery shot. Looks at the sky. Very positive stroke from Adwin there. Needs that yellow to bounce a bit off the cushion. Not there. Short Jenny here. He's playing right hand side, which is check side to the object ball, and trying to spin his ball into the middle pocket. Very accomplished at this shot. He's got his opponent's ball behind the spot, pretty much where he'd like it to be, so Adwin typically likes to run a string of mid-pocket losers, but if he gets it wrong, he'll still have either a red pot or a drop cannon. Come too far that time, so he might have a tricky red pot. Well done. In off the red here. In and out, bring the red in and out of balk. Caught it a bit thick. Adwin is the #1 player for Malaysia, although these days he resides in Sydney, permanent resident, and has a degree in accountancy from Macquarie University. Oh, clever shot. It's a running side on that to bring it around off the cushions. Obviously not intended, but not terrible.
No.
David is part of billiards royalty in Australia. He's from billiards playing family. His cousin George Gannon Jr. was, I think, 6 times Australian champion, and his uncle George Gannon Sr. Likewise had a string of Australian titles. Adwin now has drop cannon position, so he's trying to herd the balls together at the top of the table. Wants the inside of the red here. Gets the inside of the red.
4.
Not ideal yet. He doesn't have them under close control, but he does have them grouped at the top.
6.
That's gone nasty for Adwin. Shake of the head. Looks like these are short matches, so I think he's going to bail out. Not attempt anything too spectacular, just pot the opponent and put both balls into balk and make David figure out the puzzle. The key to this shot is ensuring that Adwin leaves himself a shot to follow on the assumption that David either doesn't attack it or attacks it and misses it. And keeping the balls far enough apart that David can't easily score. Well, question mark whether Adwin can score after that one, so David's just providing a simple push out to the side cushion. In playing that shot, David is effectively saying, I don't think you can score from here. David was right. So this is the tactical side of the game. It's like safety in snooker. It's perhaps not as watchable as the scoring, but it's a battle in its own right, and one that the aficionados appreciate. So David now has them in nice position, both balls in front of him. So many options here. He's got in off white, he's got pot red, he's got in off red, he's got a lot of choices. But I think he'll play white behind the spot, what we call direct method. So white goes behind the spot, and then he pots red to put the red back on the spot, and there they are grouped at the top of the table. Like so. Doesn't like where it's spotted. Phil Davis, the referee, is from England.
9.
Just grazed the white. Recovery cannon? No. A pot red. This is the correcting cannon coming back, so he's herding the white back behind the spot and chipping the red to leave a pot.
17.
There are no spots on this table. The ball positions are marked with crosses and the table's marked in white because we think it's a bit more visible on the video screen. And certainly in these close-ups you can see it quite clearly. So this is close control now, as the ball's herded into a very small space. Table so big, 6 by 12, 72 square feet. David doesn't want to play in 72 square feet. He wants to play in about 6 square feet. Make it a bit easier. But that requires tremendous control of the balls. Thinks the pot's on, so around the table. And comes back and sits perfectly. A shot, if not invented, then certainly perfected by Mike Russell, who's here at the championships. The typical David Collins flourish of the cue behind the head as he crosses behind the ref. This means that he's feeling pretty good about it. Whenever you see that flourish, you go, okay, David's on song. Bit of a surprise that he's come up that high. Recoverable from here, but delicacy required. Adwin shaking the head in the background, looking glum. He fancied his chances in this match, and based on his form in Sydney, that was a reasonable assumption. But of course, conditions here are quite different to what he practices with. The angles are throwing differently, the balls are skidding, and Adwin's out of the seat like he's been shot. Grimace. I said, Dan, your high definition cameras show every facial expression. That's a good shot. Got onto the correct side of the red, or hit it straight really. Very easy to slip behind that one. Stun across to stay near the spot. Got away from him a bit, that one. Pretty square on stance, has Adwin. In common with all of the modern snooker players, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Stephen Hendry are all very square onto the table. Use the pace there to throw the white ball a little bit wider to make that curling loser, or losing hazard. We call them losers, and some people say in-off, but in the original rules of the game they were losing hazards, so people call them losers.
17.
Wondering whether that cannon's on. He's decided that isn't, so he's going to have to manipulate the red ball into a position where he can rescue that, and I'm not sure that he's got the pace to get there. No, he hasn't. So now he's confronted with some difficulties. He likes to play this one inside the yellow ball. Outside the yellow ball on this occasion. Well played.
32.
Smile from Adwin, they're just not coming right. A little shake of the head. Screw back in off. Caught it a bit thin. Cloths are very reactive. That kind of shot was actually easily on. But of course you have to make the right target ball contact. Same issue for David there. David caught it a bit full. So yellow cushion, cushion red. Or in-off yellow, he's playing in-off yellow. Chances everywhere, gets one of them. A raise of the hand, as if to say, I'm sorry. Ball in the middle of the table. Adwin should be able to work this for a series of losing hazards. Eventually, what should end this sequence is both balls being in balk because his opponent is off the table. But in the meantime, Adwin will try and score as many points as he can, keeping that ball in the middle of the table or over the side pockets. This looks like a bailout now. Oh, it's a red pot. No, it's a bailout. So he's decided he's just going to try and get the red into balk. Has he made it? Alarmed. Alarmed look on his face suggests that he hasn't made it. Phil Davis is checking. If it's on the line, it's in balk. But the referee has declared that it's out of balk. So Adwin's not happy with that result. David's lining up a straight pot. And the red will go back onto the spot, the billiard spot, and he'll have a cannon to follow. No, he's pushed it all the way through to the half ball in off line. Not easy to do from as close as David was there. Fluke, raise of the hand.
5.
Gets a little lucky in that the red comes all the way down as well. Neither player looking very dominant at this stage. Obviously David Collins has a lot more points on the board. But still at this stage anyone's match. 20 minutes, it's easily possible to score 100 points if they get them together at the top. In off the red, Dave's trying to bring this around to leave a drop cannon eventually. He's probably there now. So red towards the pocket, cannon. A little bit ugly. He's got a fine chip here. Cannon going, bringing the red all the way up the table and back. He's thinking about that. Didn't need to. That white should come out just nicely for him, or a cannon to push them together. He's using all the space in the D here. Just check with the ref that that spotting was correct.
31. David Collins.
Nothing easy here for Adwin. He can't get to the bottom of his cue ball, so it's very difficult for him to spin the ball from here.
To David Collins.
Looks like a foul, so the balls are re-spotted. Opponent's ball goes onto the centre spot. The player plays from in hand, and David will be playing an in-off the white ball into the top left pocket as we're looking at it. It hits it a bit soft and misses. So Adwin rushes back to the table. cannon here. That's a good shot. Needs to just dribble this red in. Correcting cannon to push the yellow ball back behind the billiard spot. Bit close there. Might even be occupying the spot, so he's checking that. Decided it wasn't occupying the spot. So cannon here above the yellow. Tricky pot, so he might play a soft in off. Got the double kiss.
15.
Curses the gods. Good position here.
No.
Not anymore.
Twelve. Seventeen.
Rushed that one. Wry smile from David. "12 minutes left. Adwin needs to really run it out from here. He's quite capable of doing it.
3.
Bit full on that red, so it's just gone a bit tricky. He has an in off the red into the left top pocket. Played with check side. This is where he's most reliable, is on playing losers, where he just relies on pace control. He's pushed that over for drop cannon position. Might have gone a little wide. If it has, he'll play in off the red. Wants it to stop. It doesn't. So forced to play a chancy cannon. But plays it well and regathers the balls. But they've just gone nasty. That's a cover. This is a clever shot.
19.
Yes, well done, Adwin. Lovely shot. Figured out what the combination looked like and just left his ball in the path of the yellow coming back. Very clever.
Just
shot.
an almost spider.
Cushion cannon.
21.
Spin. Too much spin.
21. I've been tagged.
The spin made it accelerate off the cushion, but it made it a little bit too flat. 80 points the difference.
3. Five.
Didn't need a collision there. Incredible sometimes how the run of the ball will favour the player that's going for the more ambitious shots. Makes it all look so easy.
Yeah.
There's been the one moth all morning. There's a story about Walter Lindrum playing in India where he was bothered by a moth that buzzed around for quite some time until the moth landed on a chair somewhere in the audience, and Walter bounced his ball off the table and killed the moth with the billiard ball. So the legend goes.
David Collins.
Adwin choosing between in off the yellow, which he thinks is on, maybe with just a little bit of force to swing it a little wider. Not quite there. He preferred that to the pot red, which was also available. The thing about billiards is that there are so many choices, and these players will each have individual strengths. David, as a former Australian snooker champion, would fancy his potting game most of the time. Adwin favours his in-off and pace control game. So sometimes there's a contrast in styles between players as well. They're playing the same game, but they're approaching it in a different way. One of the great joys of billiards. So Adwin's thinking off the yellow onto the ball cushion and then bounce back to make the cannon. Like that. Wry smile, it hasn't headed nicely again. He's not getting much of a run of the ball, young Adwin. Good pot.
7.
And good position. Good result. So play this one with right hand spin so that it sucks into the pocket off the far jaw. Wants that yellow to travel a bit further.
No.
That will be just nice, thank you. Now he'll try and bring this up into drop cannon position to herd the balls back up to the top of the table. Overcooked it. Overcooked it. Now playing a spinning short Jenny. He's playing this one with right hand side. pet shot of Adwin's. I fancy he'll get it. Not an easy shot, but I fancy he'll get it. Nope. It looked like a thrash, but it was actually a calculated thrash to bring the red around off 4 cushions and bring it back to the top of the table. The players like to have the balls close to each other. That way you can use spins and stun and screw to keep control with cannons. So much easier when they're close. Lovely shot there. Controlled the red and the white. Real billiard shot. Now he's got it under tight control at top. This is well nigh perfect top of the table position. Which he's managed to stuff up in one. Recovers it with an aggressive run through.
16.
Check side cross loser.
19.
Now got both the balls back into half ball position. You can essentially work them to anywhere on the table from here. What he's trying to do is to get the white over a middle pocket to play an in off and then play a pot red. His goal is to get the balls herded together at the top of the table. He might take a few shots to get into that position of in-off white, pot red. And lots of things could go wrong before then. But while he's still working towards that medium-term goal, he's still got the scoreboard ticking over, so he's got in mind that he does want to get them to top, but if he plays a few shots to get there, that's fine by him as long as he's still occupying the table. And of course, as soon as I say that, he doesn't. Okay, Adwin's turn now. Few might choose to move the red here because it's not in a good spot. It's still not in a good spot.
9.
He wanted to hit that red full, push it down the table. Wriggles in, but left the balls in the dead region of the table there. Inside cannon, double kiss. Good shot, poor result. And shake hands. Nearly 100 in the difference. Well done, guys. And we'll hand over now. Thank you.
Welcome to this brief introduction to the beautiful game of English billiards. Billiards is a game played on a full-size 12-foot by 6-foot table. People might be familiar with this size table through watching snooker, but in fact the table was originally designed for billiards. Snooker only came somewhat later. Billiards is played with only 3 balls, 2 cue balls, one white with spots and the other yellow with spots, and a red ball. Each player is allocated a cue ball at the beginning and continues to play with that ball throughout the game. Determining who takes which ball is done by stringing for break. Closest to the balk end cushion gets the choice of order and cue ball colour. Players play to either a set target score or play for an agreed length of time, the winner being whoever is ahead when the timer sounds. Players can earn points by either potting or going into the pocket off another ball. Potting or going off the red is worth 3 points. Potting or going off your opponent's ball is worth 2 points. If the red is pocketed, it comes back up onto the billiard spot, or the black spot in snooker. If the opponent's ball is pocketed, it stays off the table, thereby limiting further scoring opportunities. If the player's cue ball enters the pocket with an in-off or loser, they are said to be in hand and can place the cue ball anywhere in the D for their next shot. They are not permitted to fire directly into the balk area, that area behind the front line of the D. Because of that rule, sometimes you will see players potting the opponent's ball and then placing one or both of the remaining balls in this protected balk area, hoping to force the opponent to make an error. The final method of scoring is to make contact between your cue ball and the other two balls, called a cannon, which is worth 2 points. It is also permitted to make multiple scores in a single shot. For instance, potting the red and scoring a cannon at the same time. With so many different ways to score points, billiards is a very creative game where individual shot preferences and individual strengths make for many varieties in the patterns of play. But having said that, there are quite a few tried and tested patterns of play that can yield consistently higher scores, and the players who know and master those patterns will dominate those with less precision or knowledge. Most players use a knowledge of half-ball angles, the so-called natural path of the cue ball after contact with another ball. Here are some common half-ball positions. Middle pocket loser, cross loser, long loser, short Jenny, long Jenny. The heaviest scoring zone is at the top end of the table. That's because it is where the red is replaced after it is pocketed. At the top of the table, the balls can be kept under close control with the opponent's ball between the billiard spot and the top cushion. The cushion effectively traps the opponent's ball and allows for sequences of cannons and red pots. This pattern of top of the table is called postman's knock because of the rapid double kiss of the cue ball on the opponent's ball. Another pattern of play at top of the table is called floating white. This is where the player uses his cue ball to keep the opponent's ball floating between the red and the top cushion. This requires minute and delicate control of all three balls. It is immensely tricky, and the slightest miscalculation with any of the three balls and position is lost. If holding the balls at the top of the table is tricky, getting them there in the first place can be just as tricky. While there are an infinite number of ways of herding all the balls to the top, the two most common are the drop cannon, or indirect method, and the direct method. The drop cannon is made when the red is on or near its own spot, and the player plays a cannon from the opponent's ball to the red ball, leaving all three balls gathered at the top of the table. Drop cannons are notoriously chancy, and it is said that no two work out exactly the same. The direct method is generally more reliable, but requires more preliminary shots to set up. It looks like this: a mid-pocket in-off of the opponent's ball to push the ball behind the spot, followed by a red pot to get the red back onto the spot. We hope this very brief introduction adds to your enjoyment in watching and understanding the beautiful precision game of billiards.